Hello everybody. This is Just Woken Up Melissa. I just recently woke up. This is my morning frog voice as well. John's actually still sleeping. Like I said, I did a musing recently about how we're a little bit lazier this time of year to really embrace this time of year as we kind of gear up and save energy to the new year. So I just recently woke up and I was watching this amazing video that I just recently shared on my wall that talks about a man named Andy and his dog Bailey. And I'm gonna just tell a story as some of you guys trickle in. So I'm watching this video, and up until this point, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, and I'm not 100% proud of this fact. But when I've seen homeless people to this point, like right now, where my mind now is blown and I have a complete perspective shift and I'm kind of like, wow, I can't believe I felt that way until this point. Or like, I can't believe that was my internal conversation. I didn't even realize it. So I'm watching this video about this man, Andy, and his dog, Bailey. And he's basically sharing how this dog saves his life on a daily basis. And up till this point, every time, and there's a lot of homeless people in San Diego, and there's also a lot of dogs in San Diego. And up until this point, I feel like San Diego is one of the first places where I've really experienced homeless people who own dogs and who have dogs and who care for dogs as they're homeless. Coming from someplace like Buffalo, where it was so cold, I didn't often see, you know, homeless people with pets. I also didn't see as many homeless people as I do here in San Diego. So homeless people has now become something that's really near and dear to my heart, and I care a lot about the homeless people because there's so many of them here in San Diego. Long story short, up until this point, and I didn't realize until I'm watching this video, my internal conversation about homeless people with pets has been, if they're homeless and they're begging, they clearly can't afford to like take care of themselves. Can they afford this pet? And I'm not proud of that, but I realized that really clearly as I watched this video, that has been, up until this point, my perception. I have a lot of care for the human being, the homeless person, but I hadn't in my heart had a lot of care for the pet. And I love animals, don't get me wrong, but my thought process was always like, here you are begging and you have a pet. And it seemed, I guess to me, irresponsible. However, I was so wrong. Here I am watching this video, good old Facebook, right? I get totally sucked in sometimes, and this morning I was just chilling, watching, and I'm watching this video about Andy and Bailey. And he says, when you're homeless, it can be a really unforgiving world. More than anything, referring to the dog, it's company. When you're stood there, hungry, and no one's noticing you, just walking by as if you don't count, in your mind, it convinces you that you are worthless. Wow. But with him, he looks to me for his food, he looks to me for love, he looks to me to play with him. It gives me a role. It might be a tiny role, but it's a purpose. It's a purpose to get up and behave. And then he talks about how that purpose, although small, has quite literally kept him from taking his own life, because he's gone to the bridge and sat there and thought about jumping off the bridge and looking at Bailey wondering, do I take him with me? Do I take his life too? Do I just leave him here? So the dog has literally saved his life at times where he's wanted to commit suicide. This dog also gives him a purpose to not be arrested, to not do drugs. This simple video, I'm getting emotional because it completely obliterated a completely false perception that I had. And a false perception that I honestly didn't even realize until I was watching this video, because it became clear as day to me. My ego conversation was like, like for me, I was just like, as I'm watching this, like I'm watching it and it's just starting out and I'm like, oh, how irresponsible to have a pet when you're homeless. And that was like my first thought. And it became really clear to me as I'm watching the video, I'm like, huh, that's been my thought process to this point about homeless people with pets. And it just was really eye-opening for me, because it made me think, how many people in my life, how many people, living things, animals, even plants, do I not notice? How many living creatures around me don't get my attention? How many things don't I see? How many people, homeless, maybe have I passed and unintentionally given the perception that they're worthless. That, to me, this quote from the video blew my mind, man. I was like, dude, I need to go live in my just woken up self. Because, like, I'm going to read it again for those of you who just joined in. When you're homeless, it can be a pretty unforgiving world. More than anything, this dog is company. When you're stood there hungry and nobody's noticing you walking by as if you don't count, in your mind, it convinces you that you are worthless. You and I both know that at some point in our life, we've had an internal conversation about our worthiness. How difficult would it be? And this is why I have so much passion for homeless people, because I've put myself in their shoes. I have not been homeless. I have a lot of friends who've experienced homelessness. I've gotten the opportunity to meet a lot of people who have been homeless and who are currently homeless. And they are beautiful people. And it makes me sad that they are homeless, and I get to do everything I can to help them. But the pet thing, to this point, I had always had this perception that, like, oh, this pet is, like, irresponsible. But, like, this simple 4-minute video, which you guys after this musing have to totally go back to my wall and watch it, because it changed my perception, and it became clear to me how simple it is to change a perception, right? And all it took was me learning his experience. All it would have taken in my experience was to have the negative thought, wow, how irresponsible for them to have a pet, and to have the power to ask them, what is your experience with this pet? Why do you have this pet? I know, Therese, I was too, dude. That video was so beautiful. It, like, made me, you know, the worthiness conversation, I feel like it's something we all struggle with. And this homeless man, Andy, you know, like, when people walk by him on the sidewalk, it convinces him that he's worthless. But this dog, the simple role of the dog looks to him for food, looks to him for love, looks to him to play with him. And it gives him a role. It may be a tiny role, but it's a purpose, and it's a purpose to get up and behave. How powerful is that? And that made me really think, too, about the way that we currently treat homelessness and address a lot of the homeless issues that we have here in the United States. For some reason, we have a completely wealthy country, and so much of our country suffers from homelessness. And a main reason is because we don't address the fact that a lot of these people don't have a purpose. And, you know, maybe have mental issues or past violent, you know, like, once you've been to prison, for example, it's really hard to get back into the real world. The way our judicial system is set up right now is not conducive to really successful post, you know, jail experience. Also, we don't have great medical lined up for people who are homeless or who are experiencing medical issues. We don't have an awesome, you know, rehabilitation and repurposement programs. So just a simple 4-minute video got me passionate enough about it to come here to you guys live looking like this. As beautiful as this is, I love my unmakeuped and just woken up self. But it really got me thinking, and I encourage you guys to click on the link and to, if you have perceptions about something, to do your research, because I realized how easy it would have been for me to totally banish this false perception months and even years ago, had I just had the balls and the power to ask and to learn and to understand someone else's perspective. So as we part ways today on this beautiful Thursday, I encourage you to think about how many people you're not seeing. How many people do you walk by and you just see them in a blur? We see thousands of people. How many people aren't you seeing? And you get to totally start seeing every single person that crosses your path. Who are they? And what has their past story been? And how do you get to connect with them? I love you guys. We'll talk soon.